Good morning and welcome to our Tech Talk today. My name is Harry Kohal. I'm Vice President of Business Development for Eagle Technology, and we're going to be talking about using your maintenance management software, or CMMS, as a part of your inspection prevention plan. We can talk about COVID-19, but I think what we're going to talk about today will probably transition a lot of what is happening in our life for many years into the future. We're sort of sick, maybe at this point, about hearing about the coronavirus, and your facility may or may not be running. You may not have staff on site at this point in time, but if you do, I'm sure you're focusing on looking at deep cleaning efforts, how you can separate staff and still keep functional during the COVID-19 outbreak. And that's not an easy proposition. Every company is going to be addressing this slightly differently. So what areas of computerized maintenance management can be used within your organization to decrease infection risks? How can you create work requests to make sure that things get done, both for the facilities and for the people? And how can you collect, track, and trace information about employees using your maintenance software? How can you compile requisitions and inventory to ensure for emergency supplies for the future? In our last Tech Talk, we were very direct about how our supply chain is changing drastically and will change forever. No longer can we look at just-in-time as being the absolute best alternative. And so having inventory, ensuring for emergency supplies, making sure those supplies are up to date are something we're going to be talking about today. And then compliance reporting or non-compliance reporting, right? So how do you keep your on-site staff safe? Well, things are changing. Do you use masks? Do you use gloves? Perhaps you've already been using those. How does that affect safety? There's a lot of different aspects to keeping your staff and your business running in a very safe way. No one has the perfect answer yet, but we do know that this isn't the end of the situation. There's reported re-outbreaks in Wuhan of the virus. We've always had viruses and flu with us. We took the normal flu impact as something that was acceptable in the past, and perhaps it won't be ever again in the future. So you need to work as an organization not only to keep your staff, your operational staff safe, but your maintenance staff safe as well. People can use the work request function within your maintenance, within Proteus, to request line cleaning, factory floor scrubbing, return of or filling of workplace wipes and wipe downs, having the supplies in place at all times, making sure that you've inspected and found that the supplies are there. You can look at increased frequency required for cleaning. And cleaning no longer is just a maintenance function. Cleaning is going to be an entire organization, hands-on responsibility. And again, we talked about replacement of hand sanitizers and hand wash stations, etc. You may look at some new technology for hand washing. One of the custard stands here in our city, Milwaukee area, has had hand washing stations for their employees that you just put your hands in for a few minutes. It's got a sanitizer in it. It spins and washes your hands, gets under the nails, and it dries them. So think about the technology that can be applied to help keep your staff safe. Are you going to do temperature monitoring at the door? I know companies do bag inspections and things like that. Are you going to take temperatures? Okay. Facial recognition can allow for temperature scanning as well throughout the day. Is it worth installing to keep your employees safe? What about installing equipment like UV filtering in your plant, in your air ducts, to help keep the air cleaner in your facility than ever before? These are all things that you need to think about. You need to think outside the box as to how do I help my employees, how do I help my organization stay as germ-free as possible. The maintenance system can be used to collect emergency telephone numbers, home addresses, next of kin details, travel details on employees. If an employee goes between plants, who did they encounter? What machines did they go to? Things like that. And it can be, that information can be attached to your maintenance employee database within your maintenance system. Again, we tell people that the systems typically are not to be HR systems, but in these days and times, we need to think about, can that system be used to help better manage all of the aspects of the business? Of course, you can always keep track of the training that's completed in the employee record, any certifications that they have, identification if they're under home quarantine, anything like that, any kinds of tests. We may in the future require employees to provide immunization records. I don't know. Again, this is a very, very changing world. Nothing is off the table at this point in time. If an employee is hospitalized for any kind of any reason, in the past we've said, well, that's personal information, we can't disclose it under HIPAA. Again, we don't know what's going to happen in regard to the future. So think about it. Think about, how do you identify risk within your organization? Because ultimately, this is about risk. You need to make sure that you have personal protective equipment and inventory levels of sanitary wipes, cleaners, masks, and things like that. I have clients that don't have appropriate, have found they don't have appropriate lockout, tagout equipment. They don't have certain types of supplies because they can't get them right now. So you need to rethink your whole supply chain. Sanitary wipes, for example, do they have a shelf life? Do masks definitely have a shelf life? Once we're back to the point where we can get them for day-to-day business, you need to make sure that you actually manage and rotate that inventory, just like you manage the motors and gearboxes that are sitting on your shelves today. Oh, if you're not doing that, check out my last supply chain report. We can identify compliance or non-compliance reporting. The system has the ability for people on the floor to submit a health, safety, and an environment issue tag into the system. These tags can be treated totally differently than a regular service request. Okay, they can be tracked, they can be identified, they can be reported upon. So consider whether you need to add safety, health, and environment service requests into your system. This is available today from Proteus. Think about other things. Waste removal. How we safely dispose of any types of waste will change. Think about work schedules. Already companies are splitting shifts, changing worker patterns, half staffing to avoid complete shutdowns. we are going to get back to work. We are going to be productive again as a country. So it's just a matter of time. And you have time right now to start thinking about these things. What kind of control points do you have? Do you have cameras? Do you have new assets that are going to require inspection and maintenance, wiping down, safety gear, etc.? Do you need additional conferencing equipment for your maintenance people? Can you use technology to help improve the maintenance process? I have clients that use Windows tablets, and they can use GoToMeeting or some technology like that, so that in the middle of the night, if there's a breakdown, the technician that's at the site can bring in whoever they need to via video to look at the issue physically without having to get out of bed or leave their house and actually go on premise. So how can we help people do their job without actually having to be at the site? Again, in maintenance, that's a tough challenge. So you can use the inspection component within our system to add additional inspections, cleaning routines, checkoff lists, things like that, and document the processes and the completion of those processes. It goes beyond checking off the list on the bathroom wall at the McDonald's, right? That you've been in there every hour. You really need to make sure that what you have in place and the documentation you have in place will stand up to scrutiny should you be called to task. If you add temperature stations, dispensers for the sanitary wipes, cleaners, masks, all of that will require, stocking, inspection, maintenance, supplies, a whole new world. I spent in early March, I was with a client at a class, and we spent half the day trying to track down hand sanitizer. At that point in time, they were fortunate to find it, but they have over 1,200 employees, and finding enough hand sanitizer to carry us through several months. I don't know if they ended up coming up short or not, but again, we need to rethink what is adequate supply. So this whole area of maintenance and the coronavirus and the future has a lot of unanswered questions. Think about how you can use the tool. Talk to us, help us think about how in your organization we can help mitigate the exposure to not only the coronavirus as we go back to work, but other types of risks going into the future. Thank you. I don't have all the answers. I don't think anybody does, but I think what we do know is that the future will never be the same, and we need to think of things differently. Thank you for your time.